Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 40 of Bank to the Future Live. I am here with Famida moderating and myself, Simon Dixon, and we're going to cover all things Bank to the Future for our community. We've got lots of new news and updates to share with you, both on our portfolio companies and new things that are coming up. Just as a reminder, last week we did a deep dive into the security token industry and discuss some of the things that we're planning at Bank to the Future for 2020 in line with trying to push forward the security token market. In the meantime, we've got lots of interesting news from our portfolio companies, the latest equity deals. We've also got some special announcements, good news for US investors, new listings on our secondary market, some good news for Kraken investors, and some other good news for our Korean community, our China community, and our Japanese community. So we're going to deep dive into all of those topics today. But remember, the main purpose of this is for me to take your questions. So Famida will be moderating. You can either grab us on Twitter, use hashtag BFLive, and we'll pull out your question, or head over to our Telegram group, which is at BF_token. Where you can ask questions there and our team will pull those out. Or feel free to use the live chat on YouTube and just put a comment in the live chat. We'll be pulling those out. We've also got some questions from previous episodes that we like to go back to. But the idea is that you get your questions answered and we can share some of the things that we're up to. So without further ado, let's jump straight in with some of the new updates that we can share with you. The first thing I wanted to do is, I'm going to do a quick screen share for this, is share with you some of where you can get information on what's coming next at Bank to the Future in terms of the roadmap. We released a blog with our public roadmap and a Trello board, which goes through step by step all of the things that we're working with, and each week we'll be meeting with the dev team and making sure that we're still in line with it, and if we're not in line with it, creating new cards around what types of things we are working for, so that we can help our investor community understand a bit more about what to expect and what we've got coming in store for them. We're really excited about, in mid-January, I'm going to be making a big announcement about our next play into the security token ecosystem. We've got big plans in order to move the industry forward and set the standard for how to create security tokens and what type of things that we think can create much better investment products than traditional investment products that you might have been investing in up until now. So we're going to be making a big announcement at the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami. And I've got a real packed schedule there for the 3 weeks where I'll be doing a roadshow with many of our portfolio companies, exchanges, many of the venture capitalists that invest in the industry, some of our larger investors, and also heading over to Satoshi Roundtable in Cancun in Mexico, where all the CEOs of the industries all get together each year and discuss different topics on what they're working on. And so, yeah, really excited about that opportunity for early 2020. But in the meantime, we're still at 2019 and we've still got things that we're pushing out. And we'll be making some announcements today about our new unicorn deal that will be going live to our priority access deal members, and also some updates on our secondary market. You've all been casting your votes, so we can share the feedback from those votes in terms of what deals we'll be launching next. So I'm just going to set up my screen share, switch off my camera, and jump straight in. So hopefully you can see my screen here. If you can, if not, Famida will interrupt, but we've got here the public roadmap. So in the next few weeks, you will see a completely redesigned homepage, and in that homepage, it will greater reflect some of the different products that we're launching for investors around the Bank to the Future identity, the BF wallet, our latest updates for the Bank to the Future token. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up for those that are token holders, so you can utilize those throughout our ecosystem. But what we've done here is we've published on our blog, so you'll be able to find this easier in the news and updates section of the new homepage that is coming soon. You're able to access this blog, which outlines our public roadmap. Here's a previous episode of BF Live where I went through the roadmap, but also there's a link here to the Trello board. And if you click that link, you'll be taken right over here where you can see a roadmap of exactly what we're up to. I'm not going to go through every step of this right now, but you can see here we've got our entire history. And then we went right up until what we achieved this year in Q1, in Q2, and Q3. And we're now obviously in Q4. And some of the things that we're working on right now. So you can see that we made an announcement about our US expansion plans with the strategic investment in BMI Capital. We also just announced the new escrow service that allows us to escrow US funds in compliance with US securities laws. We're getting ready for different things that we'll be doing, and also the different updates with our verification and our loyalty scheme that I'll be diving into a bit more. And also the Kraken SPV. Many of you have been asking. Those of you that invested in Kraken, we had over 2,200 investors from different jurisdictions in the different SPVs. But we're very happy to announce that you should, even after this broadcast, be able to place an offer if you are a non-US investor that invested in the Kraken SPV. If you're a US investor, obviously, we've got to get through the lock-in period to remain compliant. But for those of you outside the US, you're able to place a sell order and also increase your position if you want to put a bid on there for our over-the-counter secondary market. That really takes us into, those are the main things that we're working on in Q1. We're obviously working on delivering our next set of code that's going to be happening next year. And you can see some further details about the exact roadmap, the things that we're looking to push out in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And we'll be updating that live, and also sections here for you to give your suggestions on different things that you would like to see around the different parts of our product ecosystem. So that's the public roadmap. And then I'm just going to dive into a few more announcements before we start to take some questions. Also, for me, though, if questions come up during this period, this is a somewhat more interactive session, so feel free to take them as they come up. And I'll just carry on announcing unless you tell me there's some other questions in the community channels. For those of you that are non-English speaking, we do have non-English speaking investors. We're launching a new initiative that we've been working on. It's been on the back burner for a while, but just making sure that some of our different languages and communities can stay up to date with some of the different things that are happening around the Bank to the Future ecosystem. So we recently announced our US expansion plans and our strategic investment in BMI Capital. We now have different, below this video, I'm sure we'll put it in the description, links to our mini sites, which are informational sites that really give you a translated version of some of the announcements. Many of you might be Bank to the Future token holders, and you want to understand some of the different parts of the ecosystem and our growth and expansion plans for the token. So we have launched these different language sites. The initial phase is we've got our Chinese mini site. We have our Korean mini site. Sorry if I'm getting these the wrong order. And we've got our Japanese. I believe that's Japanese. That looks like you're testing me here right now. Let me see if I can distinguish between the two. One of these is Chinese and the others are Korean sites. So we've got all those for you so that you can just stay up to date. It's one step at a time. We'll be making these mini sites better and more interactive. It helps you understand a bit more about our ecosystem. And we'll also be able to post up here some updates on different deals that are on the Bank to the Future platform. At the moment, these mini sites are not compliant for you to actually make direct investments through the mini site, but it's a first step, and it links through to the main website for different deals on our platform. So we're really happy to bring those as our first commitment, and you can see our non-English speaking Twitter channels and Telegram groups, so you can interact with our community. Just going to take a quick water break so I can keep my voice going fresh. Okay, so those are the first steps with the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean community to improving communications. We've also about to release our first 2 US compliant pitches after a break. And as part of that, we had to change our EU-based escrow services to US-based escrow services for US investors. We're proud to announce our partnership with Prime Trust in order to achieve that. And that allows us to offer both card payments and compliant escrow services when the pitches are going live. So we gave a bit more detail on the news and updates there so that we can start pushing out our next few deals. So our next few deals that we're currently getting signed off with our US broker dealer is our primary offering that we should be sending out to our priority access deal members in the next day or two. And that is Robinhood. Robinhood is a unicorn company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. Their plan is to IPO. And we've got ourselves a small secondary allocation. For those of you that want to build a very well-rounded portfolio and have access to some of the larger deals, then we've got our next larger deal, which is Robinhood. In order to gain access to that, because it's a small allocation, you're most likely going to need to be a priority access deal member. And that involves making sure that you've got a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your BnkToTheFuture.com account so that you get access to those priority access deals. We email those over to you and you get 48 hours head start. If those don't sell out within the priority access deal members, then it goes to our platform first, but some deals never make it past that. So there's big advantages to making sure that you maintain a balance of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens. We aim to get Robinhood live, if all goes to plan, to both US and non-US investors. So we're trying to do our part. We know that US investors have a lot of problems and a lot of challenges engaging with the crypto community because of regulations. And so while those are really painful for companies like us to make sure that we're doing things right, it shouldn't be painful for you. And we want to make sure that we bring those opportunities to you where we can. The second is obviously our new secondary market launch. And let me check, actually, I'm just gonna check live now, which is never a good idea, but we'll see if we can do it. For those of you that hold shares in the Kraken SPV, I believe, unless one of my dev team tells me otherwise, if not, it will be available shortly after. The Kraken SPV should be now coming very shortly for you to place bids and offers. And those of you that own the SPV stock that are outside the US, you can place that sell order, and our goal is to make that available for selling. It's not available for purchasing to US investors because that involves a much deeper process. But if you invested in a primary offering and after the 1-year lock-in period, you want to place a sell order, then US are able to sell on the market, but not buy at this stage. We've also got Voltoro, which is still live on the primary market right now. Let me have a look at what else I've got for you on these links before I move back to my screen and take some more of your questions. The Prime Trust escrow partnership. Some more portfolio news. We've got something with Shapeshift. They are launching their Fox token and their new trading scheme. They're not doing a token sale as far as we can tell. They're utilizing the utility token for a rewards and loyalty scheme as part of their ecosystem. Tokens are incredibly useful things for people that are looking, or companies that are looking to have loyalty schemes and reward schemes and engage their community more. And our portfolio company Shapeshift, we were one of the very early investors in their early seed round. We congratulate them on getting the Fox token launched, and also anybody that purchased equity in our Shapeshift SPV. The Shapeshift team have confirmed that there is an allocation of tokens just for shareholders, and we will be distributing those to your accounts, available for you to withdraw and use in the Shapeshift ecosystem, or do with as you choose. So we're excited about that. Congratulations to Shapeshift. This is one of the real benefits to being equity holders, is that when the companies start doing initiatives like launching tokens, they tend to look after their shareholders, issue bonus tokens sometimes to shareholders, and then you get to benefit from the growth of the company as well as any growth in the network effect from the token ecosystem that they put together. So this is one of the main benefits of being an equity holder as opposed to investing in ICOs and IEOs. So we've got that story, we'll cover that one. There was a story in NASDAQ that was covering the whole re-emergence, as it were, back to equity funding for crypto companies. So NASDAQ covered us and used us as a case study of how to actually invest in equity in the crypto ecosystem. And it was put together by Joshua from Voltoro, which was using, obviously, the Voltoro funding round, and going through the difference between what was happening with ICOs, IEOs, and equity. I think that investors are getting a lot more savvy and clued on to the differences. And this is a really good article, and we're happy to be covered by NASDAQ on the benefits of equity funding. By the way, if you hear a lot of whistling, I'm in the middle of a storm here. So you might be distracted by some of the whistling, but we'll continue through. So great to see the story in NASDAQ covering Bank to the Future. Some of our portfolio companies, Coinbase, is being a lot more active through their subsidiary Coinbase Ventures and investing in parts of the ecosystem. They're building a portfolio, and so by being one of the shareholders in Coinbase, one of our portfolio companies, you're also benefiting from all of the growth in any of their venture capital investments that they're making as part of Coinbase Ventures. So exciting to see them becoming a more significant player investing in the ecosystem. Voltoro is currently live on our primary market. Congratulations. I believe this is the updated statistics, but it's well over $1 million now from their initial funding goal of 700,000 with a minimum of $500,000. So they can close at any stage. They've got 9 days left on their pitch, and that's open to, this one wasn't signed off for US investors, so that's not currently available for that one. So let's close off that. What else have we got? So we did a poll on both our Telegram group and on Twitter, where you got to vote on what deals you would like to see next on our secondary market. And the vast majority, the results are in, voted for Shapeshift to be the next SPV on our secondary market. So your wish is our command. We're currently working on enabling more investors to be for the Kraken SPV secondary market. And our goal is to release a new secondary market every 2 weeks as a goal. And the next one that we'll be doing after that is Shapeshift. And now that poll is over, we'll try and put together another poll so that you can start to vote for what you would like to see next on the secondary markets based upon the feedback we get at BF Live. So if you're constantly telling us what you want to see, then we can make sure that we do polls and we can try and get our community engaged in making sure that we're doing this type of stuff that you want to see. So we've got Kraken lined up next for our secondary market for the SPV, and also the Shapeshift coming next. So it's good to see our community engaging and helping us do that. Bitcoin Magazine also covered Bank to the Future in a similar article to NASDAQ, discussing the difference between ICOs, tokens, and equity. So good to see that covered in other Bitcoin Magazine. And I think I have one more final link for you. Oh, that was where I was going through the secondary market. So if we refresh it shortly, I'm sure we'll start to see the Kraken SPV. I believe the team are just working on getting that ready for you now. So I'm just going to quickly move back to my face, and then we can start to cover other topics based upon some of your questions, and we'll start to go through that, and we'll bring Famida in. So give me a second, and I'll also, just while Famida's getting those questions ready, just going to do a quick review on all of the topics. There you go. Hopefully you can see me. So a quick review on everything we had. We had the public roadmap. Head over to the blog. You can interact, see the Trello board, see what we're working on. We're going to have a redesigned homepage that should be released in the next couple of weeks. We had the first Korean mini blog post, Japanese mini blog post, and Mandarin Chinese mini blog post for our community that are that don't speak English, so that you can stay up to date with what's happening within our ecosystem. We also had the US compliant escrow announcement, and the different card payments and options available for US investors once we start to roll that out. We announced the US roadshow. So in January, we'll be making our next big announcement at the North American Bitcoin Conference. We'll then be doing the Silicon Valley Exchange, San Francisco, New York, and meeting different players for the US roadshow, while heading off to Satoshi Roundtable in early February. We had the NASDAQ and Bitcoin Magazine coverage on equity versus tokens. We also had results of our Twitter and Telegram polls, where Shapeshift was selected as the next deal on our secondary market. We're also really happy to announce, watch out for maybe next week or the week after, the team have been working very hard on our Bank to the Future token rewards and loyalty program. We're really excited about what we'll be releasing, and we're looking forward to getting the next phase of utility for the Bank to the Future token. We think you're going to really like this one, based upon feedback, and also launching our Bank to the Future identity service to the next stage, which is a service which allows you to use the credentials from your BnkToTheFuture.com account, your certification, your verification, and use that in order to invest in deals outside of our platform that support Bank to the Future identity, such as security tokens and different parts of the ecosystem. We've been meeting many people that are excited about doing that integration. And as part of that, we're also launching our rewards and loyalty program in order for you to get your Bank to the Future identity accounts all up to date, all squared, so that you can start investing easier, faster, and cheaper in different parts of the ecosystem as it all evolves. Also, for those of you that own 10,000 Bank to the Future token, we are also going to be announcing a very generous loyalty program that will be exclusive just to Bank to the Future premium and VIP members. So in order to get the notification about that, make sure you've got 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens deposited in either the fund section of your BnkToTheFuture.com account, or also in the, you can do it if you want to remain custody. If you're comfortable storing your own private key, download the BF wallet, connect it with your BnkToTheFuture.com account, hold 10,000 tokens on your BF wallet, and then you can do it without even relinquishing control. But the next phase of our loyalty scheme and loyalty and rewards program will be rewarding investors with Bank to the Future tokens that are premium members the more they invest. So we're really excited about bringing that to you. It's currently being coded, getting ready for testing. We also discussed Voltoro closing soon. Recently, we closed the Edge apps, the Loyal apps, the Loyal pitch, and coming very soon for premium members will be the Robinhood pitch. We're currently working on 5 other pitches that we'll be deciding whether to launch this year or whether we take those next year as everyone starts to unwind for the Christmas holiday period. And new to the secondary market will be the Kraken SPV for non-US investors. And we've still got the others like the blockchain.com SPV, the BitPay SPV, the Circle SPV, Bitfinex SPV, Ripple Labs SPV. We've set the initial target for coming out of beta for the secondary market. We want to release more features, release more markets, and then engage in a more aggressive marketing campaign to let the world know about these opportunities once we've completed the US roadshow. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be updating in terms of coming out of beta. And obviously we had the portfolio news with Shapeshift launching the Fox token. Shareholders get their shareholder tokens. And other portfolio news with Coinbase Ventures and others. So that's everything that I had on the show notes to cover. So now I'd like to turn over to some of your questions so that we can start to cover. I'm just going to make the screen a bit bigger so I'm looking in the center rather than looking at my screen. Okay, so welcome, Famida. What have we got from the question side?
Hey, Si. So yeah, the live question has been really good today. We actually have some people that keep coming back, which is great. So I'm going to go for the live questions now, but we do also have some questions and some feedback that came through in Telegram that we haven't actually got around to answering. Hopefully we can get around to answering it now because it's actually been quite a while. All right, so first question we have here is about Robinhood. Actually, I think nearly all of them are. What's Robinhood's valuation and minimum investment at the moment?
So we'll release those details when we release the priority access deal. We'll give the valuation analysis, and the minimum investment is universal across the whole platform. It's normally $1,000 for qualifying investors. So if you're a priority access deal member, we'll be giving you all the details. Make sure you've got you will be receiving those emails, which will cover more details about valuation. If it is sold out before it goes past priority access deals, then you'll be able to see that on the Bank to the Future platform.
Cool. Are there any country restrictions?
We're currently trying to, obviously, the usual countries that can't sign up to Bank to the Future due to sanctions and certain restrictions. At the moment, we are aiming to get that signed off by the US. It's in the compliance process right now. So that should be open to all qualifying investors that have accounts on Bank to the Future.
Great. All right. Are the Robinhood shares in the SPV from the company or a reselling shareholder?
It's a secondary trade, this particular one.
Okay. Will Bank to the Future be a direct shareholder of Robinhood?
We are always, through our Bank to the Future SPV structure, we always become a direct shareholder in the companies. The reason for that is the companies just simply wouldn't offer these opportunities if they had to become a public company and interact with that many investors. However, we have a structure that makes that possible. There's an upside and downside to our SPV structure. The upside is that you get access to deals that you just simply wouldn't unless you were running a full-time venture capital fund. The downside is that it has to be administered through us, which also might be an upside, depending on your level of interaction and involvement, and whether you're a full-time investor or whether you're a passive professional investor, or whatever your interaction is. You get to pick the deals. We get the deals because we act like a venture capital investor. and we get to pull the deals through our SPV structure, but we're on the cap table. There's no opportunity to become a direct shareholder unless you're a professional venture capitalist and you do this by trade.
Great. I think I'm going to just take it back to a feedback that we got on Telegram, and so maybe you can comment on it if you have anything to say. So it goes, some of us are interested in high risk companies which may not be established giants like Coinbase. Maybe some companies are developing something new. Some of us want good risk reward bets, and we're prepared to go through you for the access and degree of peace of mind that you've done due to due diligence and identifying obvious scams, incompetence, etc. Give us a secondary market with as many companies on it as possible, and not just the ones that that have already mooned.
Okay, so a few things to unpack. Firstly, we do both. So we remember the deals that are on our secondary market were the very same high risk, high return, low valuation deals at some point. However, they've grown significantly, giving the opportunity for investors that want to invest in lower risk but still high returns because they're more established companies that already reached a level of valuation and are probably going to move into IPO stage or security token stage. And remember, the thing that's so interesting about investing in this industry is that often, because of financial innovation, you can end up getting lots of surprises. So while the traditional startup that you might have invested in might end up just being, go through seed round, Series A, Series B, Series C, the valuation increase higher each time, and then you head over to IPO. But we're in the middle of one of the most innovative times in financial history. So just like if you're a shareholder in Shapeshift, firstly, there was different rounds. So people got in at different prices, depending on how early they were to the game. Others that have a lower risk profile, they would like to invest later once the company is more established and they want to see that they've already achieved traction. It just depends on, we'll bring the opportunities, you decide which ones that you like and want to invest in. At the moment for the secondary market, it's the reason that we started with the more established companies, I'm darting around, with Shapeshift, you suddenly, as a shareholder, start to receive bonus tokens. And so now you've got the profits from any growth in the network ecosystem of the token economics they put together, as well as the equity play. And let's say maybe they don't IPO in the future and they decide to do some type of security token, then there might be some kind of mechanism that we're working on whereby that equity could be converted into security token, and the security token could give you entitlements to different perks and benefits. So it's one of the main benefits of being involved in such an innovative area. We have the opportunity to try and make better investment products. So you could be involved in one of these more established unicorns. You might say, well, the valuation upside might not be great from here. Second, and then that's your perspective. This is not financial advice, but if we're in the midst of the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry, then you've got to start looking at some of these companies that might be catching up with bank valuations and the opportunities and upsides if our industry disrupts. And these are the more established players, so therefore they're more likely to capture that market with a company like Coinbase or something. But then you've got the higher risk opportunities where you could come in at a lot lower valuation, and a good portfolio would have a mix between the two. The more established companies diversified into the more risky companies, so that whatever happens with the growth of the industry, as long as some of those companies are involved in the growth and the disruption, then you've got a more rounded portfolio. So I agree with the comment that we do need to have less established companies on the secondary market. However, there are really big challenges around that, in that existing investors, the directors will have more information than other investors. Then the earlier investors might have higher information rights. The later investors might have less information rights, because this is what tends to happen over time. And therefore, you've got to more rely upon information that's publicly out there. If a company is really early stage, then there might not be any publicly available information. You don't get the requirements of a public market where they have to report things publicly. And you might be on the wrong side of asymmetric information where the earlier investors and the insiders might know more. So it's a very challenging thing. I think if we can get the right mix between disclosures, information, then we can make more of those opportunities available to you. And we are planning on launching a new secondary market every couple of weeks. And so some of those will be, companies that are maybe less established than some of the big unicorns in our industry. But for us, it's all about creating more choice so that you can decide what's right for you. I think the best approach is to be diversified across the more established, as well as some of the lower valuation, higher risk, and make sure you're looking at a combination of both primary and secondary, and also going into it with open eyes that unfortunately this is still private equity, it's not public markets, and these companies don't have the resources or the ability to adhere to many of the public offering requirements, because that tends to come later. So accepting that there is a lack of information and it's more a passive thing, and us making sure that we give you the correct disclosures. The venture capitalists have invested, so hopefully you'll be investing on similar terms. And obviously we put those layers of due diligence in the middle as well. So I think it's all perfectly fair comments, just kind of babbling some of our thoughts around why we've done it the way that we've done it. And we totally take on board your feedback. And I think you'll start to see more higher risk opportunities with the potential of more valuation upside if those companies do end up becoming unicorns later.
Cool. So going on from public offering, I have a comment here, well, a question from Telegram. What happens in a case a company launches an IPO? Can we as Bank to the Future investors liquidate our shares individually?
So in the case of an IPO, then the company is adhering to the requirements of being a public company, depending on the stock exchange that they launch on, in which case they then are able to be tradable upon a national regulated stock exchange, whether it be the Hong Kong Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange, or wherever they might be listing and going public. And at that place, because the company is meeting the public disclosure requirements of a public company, the SPV that can then be converted. So the SPV will receive publicly tradable shares. And then as long as you have a brokerage account with somebody that allows you to trade publicly listed stocks, then you can become a direct shareholder in the conversion process. Or they might have put an offer that exits some of those investors, but then you would get access to the publicly tradable shares when or if that happens. And that's one of the exit strategies that most companies are aspiring to over a 5, 7, 10-year period if the company goes on to become a huge success.
Cool, thanks for that. So going back to the live chat, there's so many questions now. Hopefully we can get through them. So one question here I have is about our blog. I saw Bank to the Future blog for the first time. It has some really good info and it's well maintained. Wonder why you guys have kept it hidden.
I completely agree with that comment. The answer is we have a roadmap. Things slip by. What seems so simple just keep getting pushed back and back because we're working on bigger features. And then you tend to have these tiny little changes that are so obvious that sometimes us as a team, we get blind to these things knowing that it's there. But you're completely right. The next version of the homepage, which hopefully it will be live in the next couple of weeks, really has the news and announcements section. There's still more work we can do to improve, but hopefully that will become clearer because we have been spending a lot of time maintaining the news updates on blog, and they are completely hidden and are not getting anywhere near enough exposure. But plus we've also got the syndication across our Korean website mini site, our Japanese mini site, and the Chinese mini site as well. So hopefully we'll be getting much more exposure. Completely valid comment. Is completely hidden. It's very few people find it. We have to do a better job.
All right, so another kind of quite a comment, I guess. Simon should go live more often to discuss general crypto issues.
I agree. I was really enjoying doing I went through a bit of binge over the summer where I was doing daily updates. There's so much happening in the crypto market. I really want to schedule in some more time. So just to give you some insights into my personal life, I've been traveling around a lot more than I normally would. I tend to, when I'm a bit more grounded, I tend to be able to schedule. I'm a very routine type person. And the reason I was able to push out so many more updates is because I was getting up at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, giving those updates, and I had a real good schedule. Then suddenly I go on a traveling binge where I'm in different time zones. I think I'm going to work on making sure I can give more updates more easily from my phone. The problem is that when I do that, I get a massive load of comments from people saying, sort out the production quality, get the tripod, get the lighting sorted. And anytime I do those, I start to procrastinate because I get caught into other things that I need to work on. So I'm trying to come up with a synergetic, high production value that doesn't piss everyone off, at the same time as being able to really quickly on the move be able to give those updates. There's people are giving me lots of suggestions. One step at a time, I'll get there. But I really do want to give much more commentary on my personal Twitter. And obviously those views are my own, they're separate to Bank to the Future. But I'd like to do more updates there. I really enjoy those as well. So I'll definitely get around to those. I'm just making excuses, getting caught up in other things, and a more aggressive travel schedule is causing problems for me.
Well, speaking of pissing people off, another question just came through in the live chat. What's going on with the total value profile on the portfolios?
Oh, portfolios. So yeah, this is the most frequently requested thing. So to give you an idea of the history of this, when we launched our secondary market, we had to completely reinvent the entire architecture of the whole platform because it was built in a way where shares were non-transferable. When investors gave us feedback that they wanted the transferability of shares and the secondary market, we started building it. And we had to re-engineer the entire architecture and structure of how those, because these are not cryptocurrencies, they don't exist in themselves like bearer shares, like Bitcoin. They're entries in the database, they're share certificates, they're paper, and we've digitized and in a compliant fashion. But we had to reinvent them all, the whole process. Now, we had a choice. We either release the secondary market into beta, allow people to kick the tires, allow people to start using it. And then once we've done that, we started working on the portfolio. But because the way that it was presented before versus under the new structure and new architecture was not compatible. So some are on the old format, some are on the new format. And then people are looking at the portfolio saying, ugh, why can't I get the information I need that I used to have? And so we made the decision to painfully release the secondary market without having fully updated the portfolio, and then return to the portfolio. And then suddenly we had a load of things that interfered in our roadmap. We had to switch to adjust to new compliance requirements. We had our annual audits, which required a few more changes, things that I know you don't care about as a customer, but just to help you understand these things. And then we had to switch card payment providers. We had to switch escrow account providers. We then had to reinvent the fund section in order to allow for faster, more automated deposits and withdrawals. But then we still had to remain the security law compliance that we have to do in terms of our AML. And this, it kind of threw us off our roadmap in order to meet new ongoing obligations and changes. But now we're back to portfolio. I think if you look at the public roadmap, it's set in there for releasing Q1 2020. Hopefully we can beat that target. We'd like to be a bit more conservative, but we know the portfolio section is disgusting. We know that everybody would like to see much better tools. We know that it's a really obvious requirement for an online investment platform. We're just trying to, catch up with a big, aggressive diversion into our roadmap and make sure that we release that for you. So continue with patience, top of the list. It's all been redesigned. It's all been designed up. It's all been set in motion. And hopefully you will not in 2020 have to deal with such a horrific experience looking at your portfolio and not really understanding the value of it and having the tools you need.
Okay, so I have a few more questions here, and I don't think we can get through to all of them because we have 10 more minutes left. And you do like to give long answers, Simon.
I can try and do short ones, depends
on. All right, let's because most of these questions now are like actually crypto related. They are really interesting. Actually, there's one here from Telegram. Could Simon please explain what's up when a company listed in BF secondary market goes public after IPO?
So what would happen in that case is that we would, our SPV would receive the stock in the public company, and those public company stock would then be tradable on the public market. At that stage, you would need to open an account with a brokerage that allows you to gain access. There'll be, in your country, there'll be lots of different brokerage accounts. Maybe at that stage, you could open with one of our broker partners. But you would then receive via the public markets through that brokerage account your shares in the public company, and that would be tradable on whatever market the company IPO'd onto.
What would happen to the price?
It depends on whether it goes public at a price significantly above the valuation on the secondary market or significantly below. But there'll be an arbitrage opportunity, just like there is in the public markets, when a takeover bid is announced. What you would typically have is there would be a market price, then there would be a price at which the company is going to IPO or is going to be taken over. And there'll be an arbitrage opportunity for people that want to buy at the lower SPV price and wait till they get the tradable public shares. And there might be a differential between that price that creates a short-term opportunity or a long-term opportunity for those that bought in before the announcement.
Cool, thanks for that. So we have an old question here actually from Telegram, and it's about nominal value of ownership. Are you able to answer this question?
So I'll just give you some context. The nominal value on the platform is, I believe, the price. I think there was an error. I think somebody pointed it out in support where the description wasn't really matching what it was. But I think the nominal value is the price of the last funding round versus the price that might be on the secondary market, and there might be a differential if the company has grown.
Can I read through what the person has actually commented and actually questioned here? So the nominal value of my shares, as stated, is about only 10% of what I paid for them. The estimated value is much higher, but I'm not talking about the estimated value. Why is the nominal value so low? Why is it only 10% of my original investment? Shouldn't it be at least 100% of my original cost, i.e. what I paid for it?
Yeah, I think there was a specific company that they're referring to where we did notice a differential there. And the reason for it is there was a company that's done multiple funding rounds. And when we moved it from the primary market to the secondary market, as an asset, an SPV asset. We took the nominal value of those that invested in the first round, which was 10% of what they may have invested in a later round. And therefore the nominal value wasn't the same for all. So I think a fix was released whereby that was updated to the nominal value based upon the data for all the investors. This was just, again, one of those complications in transitioning from our primary to our secondary market. And because the portfolio section is not built fully in the upgraded model, it creates some stats which are just not making sense to our investors. So yeah, some feedback on the portfolio redesign. I'm hoping this will all fix itself when you see the new portfolio design. But I also think that the investor relations team did make an update on that particular case.
Great, thank you for that. So another question from the live we have is, even if we use Tether, in the end, we are still dependent on banks in a way. How can this end?
Bitcoin.
Yeah, but that also leads to another question somebody asked, is they would like to know Simon's view on Ethereum, because he only talks about Bitcoin. So there you go.
So Bitcoin and Ethereum are very different things. So, you know, I first got into this market when I spoke at the first Bitcoin conference in Prague. And the reason I got into it is because before I discovered Bitcoin, I was part of a community called the Monetary Reform community. And the Monetary Reform community is a niche community that were trying to expose issues in the fact that governments have outsourced money creation to the private banking sector. And that now banks own your money, spend your money, and their monetary policy rewards people for getting into debt rather than saving. So we were doing a lot of work on that, and that's why I got into Bitcoin in the first place. So Bitcoin for me was always about our world. It was a solution to a problem. The co-founder of Bank to the Future, my wife, Bliss Dixon, and myself, we were trying to solve a problem of how to create a non-fractional reserve bank and not have the bank create money. And there really wasn't any way of doing that. There was a lot of innovation happening with peer-to-peer lending, but they all relied, just as in that question, on the traditional banking system. Then Bitcoin came along and created a solution to a problem that we were having, which was a very niche problem. And that's why we were early adopters to Bitcoin, because it solved the problem. And it created a monetary system that exists outside of the banking system. Obviously, you need to onboard and offboard, but there's ways around that. You can earn Bitcoins by working for Bitcoin, or you can mine Bitcoins, which is ways around that type of problem. But Bitcoin is what I believe to be the world's best shot at achieving sound money. I don't believe anything competes with Bitcoin. I don't believe that we will ever have another Bitcoin. And I believe that our shot at achieving, sound money through Bitcoin is a very unique value proposition that is unique to Bitcoin because it was created at a time when nobody cared, and has a network effect that can't be replicated by others, especially when they lend their name to find something, to launch something. Now, Ethereum is very different. It's not a fixed money supply. It was never designed to be money. It's essentially something that was designed to be a world supercomputer, and it eventually became disruption in capital markets with the birth of ICOs, tokens. And Ethereum is infinitely more risky in terms of its scalability. Scalability means different things to different people. Now, while Ethereum can do things faster and cheaper, it has effects on decentralization. It had effects on the number of nodes it can operate. And I don't want to get too deep into this, but Ethereum is a different thing. We launched the Bank to the Future token on Ethereum because it had the best developer community and infrastructure to be able to do that. And we would love to have launched it upon Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's technology wasn't ready for that. Now with more innovations like Liquid, and some of our other portfolio companies like RSK, Rootstock, creating side chains, and various other technology like Blockstream creating, there's the opportunity to really do a lot of the things that you had to do on Ethereum on top of Bitcoin. I'm really excited about helping drive forward that innovation as well. But we were also early investors in Ethereum. We launched the first Ethereum mining-backed security in the world. It was a security where the investors benefited from the proceeds of mining, and it was structured as a security vehicle so that it doesn't get in some of the compliance issues that other people selling investment products went through. And that was one of the most profitable investment opportunities on Bank to the Future's history, with the exception of Bitfinex and various other, and Kraken and various other opportunities. So I personally, my mission, my reason that I am here is because of Bitcoin. And then suddenly this led to a lot of financial innovation that turned out that when you can build on top of a system that exists outside of fiat currency, then you have the opportunity to disrupt the entire financial markets. And that leads us to where we are today, like decentralized finance, security tokens. And I think Ethereum is fit for purpose on those things, but I'm also excited about seeing whether it can all be done on top of Bitcoin, thanks to this new innovation. I'm holders of both, fans of both, but I'm a loyal person, and I'll always remain loyal to Bitcoin as the one that I think is the world's best shot at achieving sound money and could lead to the complete, transformation of our entire financial system. So I'm really excited about that. Probably the last question we got time for.
Yeah, it is actually, but we do actually have questions that would have fit really nicely after what you just said about Bitcoin and Ethereum and the blockchain and the liquid sidechain. But let's save it for next week.
Awesome. So we can end on a cliffhanger. Tune in next week for another episode of Bank to the Future Live. It will be episode 41, where we'll try and pick up some more of your questions, liquid, Bitcoin, Ethereum, how these interact together, and how that's going to lead to the growth of the security token market. We'll also be making further updates and announcements from our portfolio companies and from our Bank to the Future ecosystem. So if you don't want to miss another episode of Bank to the Future Live, please do subscribe to our channel on YouTube and hit the bell symbol. If you hit the bell symbol, YouTube will send you an email every time we go live. And we'll also syndicate this across our Twitter live stream and Facebook and wherever else we can. These shows rely upon your engagement. So please let us know what you'd like to see. Let us know what you'd like us to do. And if you speak to us in a not too aggressive way, then we're more likely to listen as well. And it makes it a more pleasurable experience for our team to want to serve you. If you can try and do that in a less aggressive and not too violent way, as we often see within the crypto community, where emotions are very high and money is on the line. So thank you, Famida. I think that was a really good, great to see the engagement picking up. And we'll be back this time next week, for episode 41 of Bank to the Future Live. Thank you for your time.